Good evening, people. Welcome to the Keeping It Real Conversation Show with your host, Camila, aka Sunshine. It is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. We are in the land of the living, of course. We're so excited for that, of course. I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny. Proven over and over again since I started this show in 2020. As I always state, I have some of the dopest guests on this side of heaven, and tonight is no different. I'm so excited for this guest. I've never, ever in my life knew anyone who played the violin. So this is going to be very interesting. And then on top of that, he went to the rivalry school of my school, that is. He is a graduate of Michigan State University, and we'll get into some of that later on. But I want you guys to welcome Rodney Page, and we're going to get into his bio real quick. His bio, again, is extensive, and we're going to use some of that as far as our conversation goes. And we're going to get into it right now. Of course, let somebody know we are live on the Facebook page. We're live on our YouTube channel. The name of the show, please like, share, and subscribe. We're live on Twitch, and we're live on X, formerly known as Twitter. You do not want to miss this conversation. Rodney Page, composer, recording artist, conductor, and performer Rodney Lamar Page has a unique, energetic style that ranges from classical music to pop music. For more than 20 years, Mr. Page has touched countless audiences with his passion and artistic drive for music. He is from here. He is from Southfield, Michigan. He began studying violin at the age of 10. Upon high school graduation, he was awarded a music scholarship to that school. You know, I said it earlier. We're not going to keep saying that school, but you know that one, that green and white one. Yeah, that one. Where he earned both bachelor's and master's degrees in music education. Throughout his secondary school and collegiate career, Rodney has also studied piano, and where he's good at that one too. As a violinist, Mr. Page has performed at the Midlands Symphony Orchestra 7 years, Michigan State University Symphony Orchestra 4 years, Livingston Symphony Orchestra 1 year, and as a second chair violinist in South Shore Symphony Orchestra in China. Impressive. So we're going to skip around a little bit. He's also a teacher, where he teach this wonderful music that we seem to love and adore. And as you can see, music, of course, goes all around the world. And so we want to get into this wonderful conversation with him. He has so many wonderful things in this bio. Being successful as well as a violinist, as well as a teacher, giving back to our community, giving back to our youth who are our future. It's very important that we bring out these things that he does. Also, we're going to say that what he does, we can't do by himself. Meaning he has a family, meaning he has a brother who is just as talented as he is, but not in the violin, but as a saxophonist. And hopefully soon I will have his brother on next month to have a conversation with him. So tonight I want you guys to welcome Rodney Page to the show.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here this evening. Thrilled to be here.
I am excited that you are definitely here. Again, I stated earlier, you came highly recommended from a friend who was in the audience of one particular, I guess, I'm not sure if you were in concert or you were a guest on someone else's show. And they said, well, you ever heard of the Page brothers? And I'm like, who? No. And she began to tell me about you guys. And immediately I was in the inbox like, hey, I would love for you guys to come on the show. And you responded first. And again, hopefully I'll have Reggie on in a few weeks to talk about his career. But we want to start with your beginnings of the violin. You said in your bio you started playing at 10. What was it about the violin? Did somebody recommend that to you, or you like willingly chose the violin?
Well, actually, it was neither. My mother made me play the violin. I wasn't involved in any extracurricular activities. So at the end of my fourth grade year, going into fifth grade, she says, "You will play the violin," because she felt like a young man that could play violin would definitely be a distinguished person. And that was almost 37 years ago, and I haven't put the instrument down since.
Wow. I don't think I've met or knew anyone who played the violin. And so you will be my first of knowing someone who plays the violin. Okay, so tell us about your instrument. We can assume a lot of things. We've seen it before, but again, this is firsthand knowledge for me about the violin. Can you tell us about the violin?
Oh, sure. So the violin, basically, it all violins have four strings of different widths that, and basically you're using your fingers to shorten the string to get different notes. And then you can play the violin with the bow back and forth, or you can use your fingers, which is called pizzicato, to get a certain note from the string. Um, all violins are made of wood. Obviously, some of the more expensive ones have a higher grade of wood on them. Student instruments tend to be, a lesser grade of wood than maybe the professional instruments. And the nice thing about the violin is that they do make smaller sizes if kids want to play, if a young child wants to play. So the violin that I play today is a full-size violin, but the violin that I played 37 years ago was much smaller.
Okay. Um, I guess in your immediate circle, was there any other musicians other than, was your mom a musician?
My mom was not. Neither of my parents were musicians. And I can't say that I had a circle of musicians around me other than what was in Southfield Public Schools. My dad worked at Ford Motor Company, and then my mother taught at Thompson Middle School in Southfield. And so they weren't musicians, but they did support me. They sent me to music camps locally to help me refine my skills. They got me private lessons, and all of those things really helped build my skills and build my confidence in playing and performing also.
Wow. Good evening, TT. Um, and she says hello.
Oh,
Uh,
tell
um,
TG I said hello.
so again, this is amazing, of course, education of sometimes our parents just want us to do something different that they never did. Um, I'm super stoked that she chose that instrument for you, because most young men, to be honest, start with drums or the keys or something like that. But I've never known anyone, and I'll state that played the violin, let alone someone black
Right.
who
No,
played
you're
the
exactly right. Yeah,
violin.
a lot. It's
Oh, somebody's probably calling them. It happens, you guys. It happens.
Uh,
So hopefully, are you back?
yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
I'm not sure what happened there, but what I was getting ready to say is that now there's people like Black Violin and Damien Escobar. There's a lot of black violinists that are up on the scene. But when I started, I'm sure there were some, but it was not none that I knew of.
Okay. So we stated also that you have been actually playing over 20 years doing what you love to do. This year's theme of the show has been I wanted to broadcast Black love, not only in couples, but also in the things that we love to do and why we love to do what we do. This is also a form of inspiring others to do what we do because we love what we do. Again, at 10, your mom said, "Hey, you're going to do this." And was there a fight back with her about playing the violin?
There really wasn't a fight back. I mean, it was more so it was like unknown. We
Okay.
just it was we just didn't I didn't know what to expect because I always joke around. I say that grew up off of 8 Mile and Southfield Freeway. There wasn't a plethora of violinists to compare to. That just wasn't really a part of the culture there. So there really wasn't any pushback. I was willing to try it. I just didn't know anything about it. And then as I began to play more and more, I enjoyed it more.
Okay. So with you being the composer, a recording artist, conductor, and performer, out of those titles and hats, which one do you like the best?
Out of the ones that you have listed here, I would definitely have to say conductor.
Really?
I
So
would.
you're the one that's, with on the stand or the stick and okay. So why the conductor then?
That's a good question. I like to be able to, I love the sounds of like an orchestra because the violin is just a solo instrument. It's just
Okay.
like one voice. But I feel like with an orchestra, you can compare it to a choir. And so I feel like
Okay.
there's a much wider palette of colors that you can use musically. And just in general, you can just get a bigger sound. Um, so I always say that being a conductor is one of the things that I think people know least about me. Like people know I do it, but it's I don't think they know how much I really do enjoy it.
So with the violin being a solo instrument, or it can be a solo instrument, and we know 10th grade, I mean 10 years old is what, middle school, or is it
At 10
elementary?
years it was my beginning of my 5th grade year.
Okay. So the whole time that you're in school, you were only playing the violin.
Correct. From 5th through 12th grade.
And with that being, of course, this is with that in school, just to remind me, is that just orchestra band or is it a whole band that you're playing with?
So that's a good question. So it's kind of a little bit both. The first, I would say, 5 years or so of me playing, it was just orchestra. So it's just string instruments which would be violin, viola, cello, and bass. But there is something called full orchestra, and full orchestra would be those same string instruments along with some of the band instruments. So that's what Detroit Symphony Orchestra is made up of. So Detroit Symphony Orchestra has flute players, trumpet players, as well as violin, percussion players. I mean, they have a mix of both. So I did play with some of the band instruments, but the first 5 years was just the string orchestra.
So let's be honest. Again, I don't know nothing about violin. I don't know too much about any instrument other than my vocal cords. Um, is would it be hard to learn how to play the violin?
It's not an easy instrument. I'm going to be honest with you for a few reasons. I think one, your left hand and your right hand are doing two different things. So, for example, on piano, your left hand and right hand are doing the same thing. Second thing is it's a very unnatural position. So this having your
Mhm.
instrument, that's not necessarily a comfortable position. It can cause tension, things like that. And then I would say just tuning, keeping a violin in tune and playing with a beautiful tone. It takes a while. It's not one of those instruments that you can kind of pick up and play. There's no cliff note version,
Okay.
shortcut to it.
Okay. So, again, for someone who doesn't know anything about that, is a violin expensive?
They can be. Student instruments probably. Well, what? Let me start with this. Most parents, if they're getting their child an instrument, and I even do this with my own kids, and my parents did the same thing. They don't purchase an instrument; they rent one.
Oh,
So, and they rent one because instead of shelling out five, six, seven, $800, they rent one more so to see if there's an interest that the child has. But I would say if you were to buy one, they probably start for like a new instrument, probably $600, $700 is where they start, and then they can go. The most expensive instruments can be in the millions.
say, say what?
They can be like a Stradivarius. My teacher at MSU owned one that he bought in the 1950s for about $50,000. It's easily probably 2 or 3 million today, 70 years later. So they can be very expensive.
Is that because of the wood, or because who actually crafted it, or because of who? Explain that to me.
So I definitely it definitely the wood is part of it. I would also say this type of sound, the ease, it's easier to get a good sound on them. I've played one before. Some of the really expensive instruments, they're just easier to play. That's probably the best way to get a really nice sound. Um, and then I would agree with you. I think it's some of it is just name brand. It's like
Okay,
Pro Wings versus Jordans. It's just,
gotcha.
so they're both shoes, but you know.
Wow. Now, I would never would have known that at all. Like, I would have never imagined. Well, I mean, I know instruments like grand pianos and things of that nature can be very expensive, but I would never have thought that a violin would cost that much.
Yep, they can cost. I don't own any instruments that expensive.
Wow. Um, so we have also noticed that in the bio, um, that you have played in several orchestras. Is that because you were, oh, let me say, well, let me ask this. So with the orchestras, do you have to audition, or are you sought after for an orchestra?
Sure. It depends. It depends on the orchestra. It depends. So if it's a higher playing level orchestra, you do have to audition for it. So, for example, in the state of Michigan, the best orchestra would be Detroit Symphony because Detroit is the largest city.
Okay.
So, trying to think, maybe Mount Pleasant, Michigan, they have an orchestra, and you might have to audition for that orchestra also, but less would be required of your audition from like a Mount Pleasant orchestra or a Jackson Symphony. There's also community orchestras. Community orchestra you would not have to audition for. So that's just an orchestra that people who may have a different career, maybe they're an attorney or they have something else, but they played violin in high school and they're still interested in playing, they would play in a community orchestra. So I always tell people so that they understand. I always say it would almost be easier for me to try out for the Pistons and make it than try out for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And the reason I say that is because I know that the Detroit Pistons team 15 years ago is different than today. There's pretty much all new players. Where the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, maybe all the same players from 15 years ago are still in it.
Oh, okay.
There's a higher turnover. So then Wallace doesn't play there anymore.
Yeah.
They don't play it. So it's a higher turnover. But a lot of people, when they get a major orchestra job, they stay with it because it's very difficult to get those positions.
So to be in a Detroit orchestra or whatever state that you were in, your class for you would be I'm not even sure what we would put you up against. Like who uh who else, I guess, or who else would be like a famous violinist? Is that a
That's
question?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. The answer is it depends on what genre of music that you're playing. So,
Okay.
for example, Damien Escobar is famous.
Yes.
He does not play in any major orchestra.
Uh-huh.
Yet he makes more than all of them. He's a solo artist. So, he plays by himself, basically. Where the orchestra jobs, they're more, it's kind of hard to describe, but they might pay less, but there's more job security. I guess it's probably the best way I can. I mean, as long as you
Okay.
keep your skills up. So, I actually love playing in orchestra, but I've kind of the way my career has kind of gone unintentionally. Most people know me for playing by myself. I would say that with my brother also. Um, so I don't know that at this time I would play for an orchestra because, for example, when you play for an orchestra, someone else is telling you what to play. Musicians don't pick what the Detroit Symphony Orchestra plays. The board or whoever, they pick it, and you just play what they tell you.
Hmm.
Where not to say that I don't do that as a solo artist, but I have a little bit more leeway as a solo artist.
Okay. Um, let's get into um so what gave you the courage to step out on your own, away from orchestras? Let's ask that question.
Well, my orchestras, when I played for orchestras, was more when I was younger, meaning like in college, for example, at MSU or in high school or just out of college. When I played for the Midland Symphony, I was in college. So to answer your question, I stepped out of orchestra because I became a public school music teacher. So then that consumed more of my time. When I graduated from MSU in 2000, I taught fifth and sixth grade orchestra in East Lansing public schools. So I went to all the different elementary schools that were kindergarten through sixth, and I taught just the fifth and sixth graders that were interested strings. So I could have also played an orchestra. I just chose not to. I just kind of focused on what I majored in college in. Um, and then right now I don't teach full time in the public schools. I walked away from teaching to be a stay at home father. Um, Now coming up, I think it'll be 15 years that I walked away. So I still am in front of kids a lot. I'm just not a full time teacher.
Okay. Um, okay. So we know that. And even out of school, for yourself, what was it about, giving back to our youth? What was it you could have done? Like you said, you could have went into orchestra full time. You could have, did your solo career. Why become a teacher?
I always loved, and I still say my heart is in teaching. I love personally seeing a student inspired that wants to try an instrument. Um, and it's funny what you started out the conversation saying is exactly what, like, you didn't know much about strings, you hadn't seen it. So one of my goals is to get kids who haven't seen it the opportunity because if they can see it, possibly do it if that's something that they're interested in. There's a lot of kids, I have the pleasure of going and seeing a wide variety of students from different backgrounds. So it could be Renaissance High School compared to the Homeschooled Association, compared to Lansing Christian, compared to Howell Public Schools, Traverse City, El Paso Schools, Anchorage, Lansing Catholic. So when you see that wide variety of students, you can inspire them to possibly, do that. Or even if they're not want to major in music in college, they could still play, even if it's just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
To do that, they've got to see it, and that's I could get into a long conversation about that, but that's really I think that students of color, they especially Black students, a lot of them don't see it, so they don't even see it as an option of something to do. If what I'm seeing is attention's going to the basketball team, the football team, that's what I know. So that's what emphasized by the community. Where there's other communities where different things are emphasized. So
Yeah. Again, I don't recall anyone. I'm sure it probably was, but again, to have a violinist, I didn't know. I would probably know more of saxophone players than a violin, especially Black and especially a male. Because even when I seen the orchestras on television or if I saw them in person, I never saw a dude playing the violin. It was always females. Um, so we're not going to say you're the first, but you're definitely breaking down barriers. So is Damien Escobar. So let's get into the type of style, your energetic style that you bring to the violin to get people interested. So how did you come up with that?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is you have to connect with a little bit of what people know, because there's a lot of people that don't know about the violin. So one of the things I try to do is play something that people know, whether that's, I mean, it could be anything, it could be Bruno Mars or whatever, but connect it to something that people know and put something that they know in a different light. And then they could say, oh, I never thought that the violin could go to a Bruno Mars song or whatever, hip hop song or techno song. But I also, want them to know that, I am classically trained also. So I don't just play Rihanna all day or whatever, skills that I learned from classical music, I use in my playing of whatever of a variety of genres. And I try to be open to doing genres too.
So do you have to play with music or can you just play a cappella?
So I can play by myself, no background music, no track. I do that a lot at weddings, wedding ceremonies. But then I also can play the tracks too. I can read music because that's what I went to college for. But then I can also play by ear. So that I think really what the key is to my career is the versatility. So I tell people I don't really do anything a lot. Just what makes it a lot is the variety. So it could be one day I'm playing, in front of a school. The next day I might be conducting a seventh grade orchestra. The next day I might be DJing and playing electric violin on the east side of Detroit. The next day going to a concert, but they're playing a piece I wrote. The next day, I'm beatboxing and freestyle rapping in Howell, Michigan. The next day, I'm at Kalamazoo Juvenile Detention Home. So that's kind of what my career looks like. And I love it because you get to really see a wide variety of people and also how they respond. So, for example, I went to this is before COVID, or might have been at the start of COVID, or right before. I went to Renaissance High School and worked with the orchestras there, and then I did a freestyle rap. Well, that immediately connected to the kids because that's what they've grown up with. They know that. Well, I did the same thing in El Paso, predominantly Mexican American, and it wasn't that they didn't like it, but less of them are into that than Detroit. You
Yeah.
know, they play more like mariachi music and things like that, where the kids in Detroit would probably know almost nothing about it. So it's the versatility that really like I like to this day. It's funny, I still play in a country band to this day that's based out of Ovid, Michigan. So I've been to the barn parties and I've seen that. One time I played with the country band literally at the Shiawassee County Fair. Literally the next day, got up, drove to the east side of Detroit, and then DJ played electric violin and freestyle rap for a pop up that the DJs like Gary Chandler and they put on. So I mean, we're talking about it's almost like two different planets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two, I mean, everybody was cool, everything, but it's a lot of people don't see that. Most people see your view of the world is where you're from.
Yes. So because of your versatility, and your wide range of what you can do, does that play into your bookings or your as we say, the money bag, because you can go into different arenas when most people probably can't?
Yeah, I mean, definitely wouldn't sit here and say I'm rich. I mean, I'm struggling like every other musician. So, but I think it just provides musical interest. I never get burned out of doing anything because, you know, the barn party is going to be different than the cabaret. I mean, basically, conceptually, they're the same thing. It's just the music's different, the way they're dressed, but it's still
Yes.
a celebration. So I feel like I get to look forward. As far as the bookings, I think what helps with me is I try to look at it from the client standpoint. If Sunshine is hiring me, how easy is it from her standpoint to work with me? That's a
Okay.
big thing. And then, so for example, I came down to Detroit on the east side of Detroit this past weekend at Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church for their pastor anniversary. So technically, what I was hired to do was only play 3 or 4 songs for the pastor. That was what I was hired to do. What I did was, I might have played 7, 8, 9 songs as people were eating, and then they needed music in between the different things that they were doing, and there was a piano there, so I played music in between. So the client or the person that hired me said, "Oh yeah, you were worth every penny." Because most people would have just played 3 songs and then drove back to
And left.
laughing.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right. So you have to really put on your best. And I think that's where a lot of musicians fall short is, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I mean, you have to do your best. So if I go, you're getting 100%. I don't care if I'm playing at the prison, playing at the country club, playing at Renaissance, wherever, that it's got to be the same and consistent.
Absolutely. Our next thing is your gift will make room for you. And we know that to be true because, again, we know that this gifting come from ourselves. Um, Mom could have made us play the violin, doesn't mean that I was going to be good at it.
Right.
And that also goes into perfecting your craft, what we talked about earlier, having the training, the camps to actually do these type of things. And we're going to say this too, on average, when you go to camps and you go to, private sessions and things of that nature, how many times have you actually seen the people that you started with?
Oh, that's no one has ever asked me that. Um, started with, and I know who I started with. I have to say,
You said none?
That I started playing violin with, the people who I started. You're asking
Yes.
that are still playing today. None.
Wow.
And I think
So
some. I mean, they went to different careers and things. Not everybody's. You
yeah,
know.
so again, it's also the dedication, but then again, when you fall in love with something, you might start off with people. You might start off with a whole bunch of people. And again, your thing to this, well, why you love to do what you do, um, it will outlast sometimes relationships. It will outlast time and error and spans and fads, as you might say, trendings and all of these different things. But I love to do what I do. And that again will also make room for you. I remember when Rodney started 30 something years ago, and now he's, at this point, we're going to say and we're going to speak out a household name. Not only that, but on an international level, because again, you really could uh take your passport and go wherever you want to based off of your gifts and skills that you have an extensive resume. I have the paper, and I'm sure it wasn't listed all the things you have done and accomplished, because again, I said send me a short bio, and if that was short, I maybe that's a Michigan State thing. I don't know, but and for y'all to understand, my first phone conversation with him, we going back and forth about Michigan State and Michigan. So it's a thing. It's okay. It's
Yes,
okay.
it is. Yes, it is.
It is okay.
Look. I'm a diehard Spartan. That's
I
where
have
it all
cousins
began.
that just posted a picture of them 17 years ago. They're still together. And I said, oh, y'all are so cute, except y'all go to that, or y'all went to that, that green school. And so and it was like, well, thank you for the, beautiful compliment, and then a, quick jab at the same time. Like, that's what we do. But it's okay. At the end of the day, we all know, Michiganders, that if we were in a bowl game or we're in a championship game and one of the two schools are in it, we will root for that Michigan game regardless, team regardless. But when we're going against each other, it's always going to be the maize and blue here, and he's going to be green. But anyway, so at that moment, your gift will also make room for you again. By any chance, do you have your violin with you?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I can get it right. It's just right here. Just sitting in the case. Let me grab it here. I always try to keep it nearby.
So Crystal P just said she loved her some Rodney Page. You guys did events together.
Yeah. Oh, Crystal, she's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Yes, she
That's
is.
another talent.
Man, she just had her 20 years celebration this past Saturday, and my jaw still hurt from everything that she did, and that still wasn't everything. And I'm like, how? Why, God? Really? Can I get just a slither of? I mean, I
Hey,
can't do
Crystal.
nothing. Like, what? The girl that came out with this bad outfit, and then she gonna hush up. AC, don't come out here with that go green stuff. You gonna get deleted. So she comes out playing a Beyonce song on the flute. She didn't play some a saxophone. She got on the bass. She didn't play the Anita Baker song on the piano. She didn't sung some Phyllis Hyman. Like, bro. Then she get up there and DJ. Then she started cheating. Like,
Oh yes,
oh,
I think I forgot that she could jit. Right, I saw a
wait a
video of this.
minute. I'm like,
Right.
she older than me, and I can't even jit. Nah. If she would have went out there and started double dutching or something like that, I'm like, you know what? Punch me out, sir. I am done for the day. I don't want to see nothing. I don't want to hear nothing else. Like, girl, what else is you gonna do? So yeah, she definitely impressed me. I had a little
Yes.
side joke about her legs, but that's a different subject. But anyway,
Right.
whatever you want to play, sir.
Okay. All
Give
right.
give the people, the church folks, a little bit of what you can do.
Let's see.
Was that Donnie McClurkin? Yo, Grayson?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
I was like, okay, let me try to figure out what is he playing. And then when you went into I think Yo Grace and Mercy, yeah,
That's
is
right.
where I heard it. I was like, oh, that's what he's playing.
Oh yes.
So
One of my
yes,
favorite songs. I
really,
just there's a beauty. Yeah, it actually is. It's gospel. Definitely one of my favorite gospel songs. Definitely.
wow.
Definitely.
So um, when I think I was in college when that song first came out, and it took us by surprise. Not that it was surprised by him, but the way he delivers, the way he brings everybody in, which also goes into how you like to conduct, where it's everybody's different blend into that one perfect song. So thank you for sharing your gift with us.
Yeah.
Again, uh, this is what I do, especially entertainers. Um, you can't just come on the show and just be handsome and cute. Like we don't do that over here. You have to share the gift that you have so people can come find you and support you, because guess what? I just heard Rodney Page, play great Your Grace and Mercy on the show. Like, okay. So when I see his name somewhere, I would definitely support. Again, Village, you already know we can't do this show. We can't do nothing by ourselves. We can't do this alone. We have he stated that he's happily married with 2 children. His
That's
brother,
right.
he does music as well. Rodney has music out that you can purchase, download, however you want to get your music. And he has his brother on one of the songs. So again, we can't do this alone, especially when you have gifted people in your family. Do your children play an instrument?
Yes, both my sons play violin.
What, they didn't want to be after their uncle?
They did not. Well, yeah, and my brother doesn't have any kids yet. Hopefully, I'm sure he will at some point. But no, they took after the violin, and I introduced the violin to them so that they would, there's a work ethic that I think comes with the violin that I want the boys to have outside of music, just in life in general.
That's good. Again, there's another generation that a mirror of ourselves will be somewhere in the school system, somewhere in the world who is actually playing this and traveling the world like a Damien Escobar who's um, bringing in younger people uh, to something that's classical but also can be switched into the hip hop world, into the pop music, into you can play it anywhere. I also had not too long ago Hank Bilal, who is a jazz trombonist, and I had never met anybody who played the trombone. So again, it's the idea of the impossible happening,
Mhm.
and they all look like us. And we're not
Right.
just playing just to be playing, we're doing it at a high level. And so that part is what makes me smile. Like you have no idea what the village can bring until you actually have conversations or you see them out and you like, who is that? They bring in a whole different vibe to something that at one point might not even belong to us,
That's
or
true.
it might have started with us and it, well, we're not gonna get in that conversation. But I am not about to go down the rabbit hole. I'm gonna stay. Yeah, I'm gonna
Right,
stay
I
over
hear you.
here. So these two words right here, uplift and empower. I ask every guest this: of what do they feel this means to them, and or you can, what do you do to uplift and empower people?
So, those words mean a lot to me. Uplift, um, that could be that could be a lot of things, but an example that could just be, uplifting my fellow musicians. There's a friend of mine that I would be willing. She's not from Detroit, but she's from Oakland, but went to MSU. But she's a bass player and a singer. You probably, I would say, you might have even seen her videos, or you didn't know. Her name is Anissa Strings, and we all thought, oh, she's doing good. She's got 800 or 900,000 followers on Instagram, and she's got videos she makes every day of her, and she's extremely talented. And she went on live, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, just saying like, even I'm struggling financially with 800 or 900,000 followers, and she's opened up for Jill Scott and done things like that. So I say uplift. I just send her a message like, you are talented. Clearly, to have not almost 1 million followers, God's blessed you with a unique talent. Just keep on pushing. Your time is coming. I know it may not show up in the bank account yet, but you have it. So that uplifting, is something that people need. Empowering, I think, is something I like to do with the kids to let them know that they can do what I'm doing and even take it a step further.
Hmm.
So I encourage students to be creative and in their approach. So I'll say kind of crazy things to them like, well, am I the first DJ to ever play violin? Am I the first person on earth ever to think about putting a violin with DJing? Or is there someone that's created a heavy metal quartet that consists of four harmonicas? Or am I the first person to ever think of it? Those are people that are creative thinkers in their approach. And it's tough because we live in a culture that we follow. So if you buy Jordans, I buy them. If you have a Cadillac, I have a Cadillac too. I just have maybe a newer model, or so we're just following other people, but we're not actually really giving them the tools to empower them to really be themselves. And so my pastor said something that really stuck with me, that motivates me. And he said, you know, where the most talent and the gifts lay at, and that's gravesite. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people never materialize, you know, they never kind of figure out what they're doing, or they're chasing the wrong dream, you know. So for me, the uplifting and empowering, that is what motivates me to do what I do. So I guess I don't have to play all over the world. I can play in Michigan and still have that same power to uplift
Power.
people
Yep.
on a
Mhm.
more direct level. And I like that. Plus, for me, I have a family, so I'm not trying to be, you know, I have some friends who are violinists. Actually, one young lady that you might have heard of from Detroit, she's doing extremely well. Candace Smith, she goes by Pretty Strings. She graduated from DSA. She's in Atlanta now, but she's the official violinist for Tony, Tony, Tony. The song Anniversary, violin part that's in it that we all know.
That's her.
She's That's not her because she's only 30 years old. But
Okay.
when they do, yeah, but when they do tours, they perform in Birmingham and Atlanta and this, and it's her playing it today.
Wow.
She's
That's
right from
amazing.
Detroit, and she travels all over the world. So I went down, when you talk about uplifting and power, and I actually found out about her through a mutual friend of mine. She said, she asked me, "Have you ever heard of her?" And I said, "No, I hadn't, because I'm 46. She's at the time probably in her 27 or something." And anyway, I was like, "Oh, she's amazing." So I came down to Detroit when she was living down in Detroit, and I met with her and her parents, and I kind of gave her the rundown of the music and the entertainment industry, because people like myself, and even more so people like Crystal P, we know, we've been in it long enough. So when you say, "Well, what are you talking about?" I mean simple things like this. I said, Tony, Tony, Tony are all men, all in their late 40s, 50s. You are 27. So it's all men that you're on tour with. I said, you shouldn't be sharing a room with them because they forgot to get you a hotel room. They need to be paying you on time. They don't need to be giving you extra hugs. They're trying to kiss you like you're their pet or something. But I can say that from experience,
Hmm.
and it paid off, because she was like, one of the members, I'm not going to say who, they went out to dinner, you know, the band, and one of the members of one of the singers was like, "Well, I already know what Candace wants to order. She wants to order a lobster and a this and a this." She had to kind of check him at the table, and I'm glad she did. Like, "I'm not your daughter." No.
Hmm.
But they'll do that. Some men will do that to try to kind of, you know what I'm saying, act like in control of you. So, but and there's some other things I just told her about, you know, charging what you're worth. And I said, you've got the look, you've got the internet presence. So all of those things, I could have looked at her, to your point of uplifted and power, like, well, she's my competition. I'm not gonna say anything to her. Whatever she does, good luck. You know, and unfortunately, there's a lot of that. So I try to look at what can I do to uplift and empower people, and it brings me a lot of joy.
And that's good because again, um, the lessons that we have learned being in the spaces that we're in, we are supposed to share and be honest and transparent so the people behind us don't have to have the same headaches and heartaches and all these other crazy isms when we've been through it already. We see it when, I mean, we could hear it before it even comes close to us. We already know what the deal is. I mean, the devil don't change his tricks at all. It's the same
Yep.
game. So again, it is very even if I'll look at it like this, even if you didn't tell her anything and she had to learn it the hard way, those bumps and bruises can take a lifetime to get over, especially when things like that and with people we have trusted have taken advantage of us. So I appreciate you for being the big brother or the big mentor to tell her the truth. So when it comes, you already aware. Don't have me out here looking crazy when you could have avoided a whole lot of heartache in therapy and you didn't.
Right.
So I appreciate you. I even was told, even in the entertainment world, that because I have such a big heart and I want to help everybody, be careful because of your personality. So I heed to the warning, of course. They didn't just tell me that just to be telling me this. It's a reason. Just like we have like the Unsung show or different podcasts that tell us the ins and out of the entertainment business. They're not just telling you this just to be sitting there for 30, 40 minutes just to be talking. No, listen. If I don't know nothing else, I know about you better have your contract right or you'll be on there doing the same song and dance that they're doing. No. Make sure you have your lawyers. Make sure that everything is on the up and up. Because at the end of the day, it's all gonna fall on you, especially when you signed it. So again, I appreciate you for telling her that. That just makes my heart even better. With not having to hear about another individual who was out there and then came home wounded. I don't want to hear that story no more.
You said, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I don't want to hear that story no more.
Yeah. Well, and you're exactly right. We have to share knowledge. There's things that even Crystal P, she may not remember that she even shared with me, that she might have forgotten because it's been years back. But I was like, oh, okay, this is just making sure how to navigate and deal with people. And some people don't deserve your time and energy. And so I think she's and now Candace, from Detroit, playing violin, playing all over the world, played parties. Some of the things I see on Instagram that she's done, and I'm not even talking Tony. I'm just saying some of the other things are just great, and her attention to detail is, as far as just everything, honestly, is just really good. So.
My last question or statement is I asked to my guests, what does a balanced life look like for you?
That's a good question. So for me, it's making sure I take out time for God. Number one. Two is making sure that my marriage is good. My wife and I are realists when it comes to marriage, and we don't want to be a casualty, our marriage to be a casualty because of stuff. There will always be somewhere to play somewhere at some point, but I need to make sure I navigate to have the best marriage now, which also would set a good example for our children. I guess third for me would be my sons, and that is making sure that we do daily devotion, which is basically man training. My youngest son said that he's not a boy, he's a man in training. And that's how we have to look at the youth. Like, they're not going to be 8 forever. So you have to look at it like, we have to groom them to be ready. And then, of course, you have your career as a musician, but it would come after all of that. So, for example, this past Saturday night, my wife and I had a date night that we planned. Well, we both planned probably 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that this is our date night. So a young lady from our church, teenager, babysat our youngest son, and then we went out. That can't be like, well, if we get around to it, we'll get it. Like, that has to be a priority. The marriage, because we'll be celebrating 15 years this year. The part with my sons is just, that's why I quit teaching. Not because I hate teaching, but I feel like, and especially in our community, especially, the teaching is not going on. So what I'm saying teaching is just because she's on Instagram wearing a thong and has big breasts that doesn't mean that she's good wife material, even with 8,000 likes. So someone's got to say it because that's what the children are being, or, vaping is actually worse than cigarettes. What, these are the conversations I'm having with the boys. So, my sons, cigarette smoking was going down. The cigarette companies are like, we got to find a way that we can capture young people that they will be lifelong customers. So instead of doing the old fashioned cigarette, we're going to come up with this purple, sleek looking thing, advertise it on YouTube. Even more nicotine, it's worse than cigarettes.
Oh, the vape pen.
The vape pen that I'm sure you've seen all the time. I mean, or this is why we're saying no sex before marriage, or this is why it's best to be honest. I mean, these are things. It's funny. 50-year-olds don't understand. That's up on 50-year-olds. We want to make sure that our sons have that. You have one wife. If you can't be with one, you need to be with none. That starts at age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So by the time they're 15, 16, 17, like I told them this story. There was a young lady at MSU that liked me, and basically told her, I'm really not. I like you, but I'm interested in you as a friend. She was upset. You have some people that would have said, well, you could have avoided all that. Just date both women. She doesn't have to be upset. The lesson to my son is, even doing the right thing, you may get a bad response.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But that was the right thing to do. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to just keep her on the side because I know she likes me. So I digress. I don't want to preach tonight. But when people ask, what are you talking about during devotion? Yeah, it's the Bible verse, and we talk about Christ and these critical things that a lot of adults, young people miss. So, and it's funny, my oldest son is now 19. He's at Grand Valley State. My wife and I said, we now are seeing the fruits of what we put in him when he was 5, 6, 7, 8. I know your cousins in Detroit might be saying the N word, but this is why our family doesn't. That doesn't mean you look down because they're saying the N word. This is why we don't do this. But that's got to start. That can't start at 17.
Yeah.
When I'm a junior at Henry Ford, that's too late. That's got to start. That's got to start earlier. So a lot of my time is put on that, and I feel like, and then I would one other thing to say balanced life that I learned being dumb is making sure that I tithe. I was like, well, you paid me $100, sunshine, is mine. When really that's not how God intended it. And so I noticed immediately when I just humbled myself and said, this $100 that she's giving me to play, not all mine, that God gives is this, I can at least give 10% to God.
Mm-hmm.
What it did is it opened up a lot of opportunities. So I don't have to, I put stuff up on social media, but I don't really do a lot of begging people to have me play.
You don't have to. I mean,
That's
again,
a direct result from God.
That it's back into the conversation of your gift will make room for you, and the simple fact that your character, your integrity is what's keeping you in the door. And your reverence to God, your faithfulness to Him, He'll always. And we always know the scripture. I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging bread. God ain't no liar, so therefore, He'll always make sure that you're good, even in your decision of being a stay-home dad. And for some people, say, what? He ain't what? But he is working. He works in a different way and everybody's home situation is different. Everybody's home is not a cookie cutter, or it doesn't always have to look like that. So again, we know what it is. It works. So be it. there's the moment of, again, making sure that a father is in present is important. I tell my friends who have young daughters, is very important. Well, children, period, to see their father in the home and present, as well as the father loving on his wife. They need to see that. It don't have to be closed doors. Now, of course, there's a limit to it, but again, at least I see my mother and my father hugging and kissing and showing that they are affectionate, that they love one another, that they have each other's back. I see that. So it's not that what I see on television and in the movies is my reality. No, what's my reality is what's in my home. So again, I appreciate you for being who you are and how your life has turned out to be, and continue to be, as far as being a balanced life and a well-known musician, a Black man that is a violinist. I've never seen it before, but now I have. And so I want everybody in the world to know who you are, for the simple fact that you are a rare commodity, let alone a Black face in an orchestra. But again, I'm going to stay on the other side of this. I'm not going to fall in the rabbit hole. That's a whole different conversation. But I have some church announcements, so everybody govern yourself accordingly. Usually I do sing a little bit, but I've been dealing with some vocal issues, so I'm not going to sing tonight. But God gave me the opportunity to write my first book, The Blueprint God's Design. It is on Amazon. You can put the title in, the code, or my name, and it will come up. It was a moment where I was doing everything off the lane, and God was like, ma'am, you are doing my job, and I can't function because you're doing my job. So I need you to sit down, reset yourself, and get back to the blueprint. What is the blueprint? The blueprint is the Bible. I need you to get back into my presence so you can go into the right direction. And so, yeah, I thank you in advance for those who will buy the book. I'm working on book number 2, should be out this summer. I call it The Prayer Changes Things. So I'm excited about that. If you want to continue to see this platform get to TV land, that's my goal. To take the world by storm. You can cash at me at Sunshine Camila. I thank you in advance for that. Excuse me. This has been brought to you by Black Top Streetball Association, BTSBA.com. I know you're probably wondering, who is that? Well, if you remember AM1, my heart's main event, this is his baby. They will be coming back out, but this time as owners. So I want you guys to see and check out what cities they will be coming to see who got the best game. And this time it's going to be a different platform for it. So again, I want you to support Main Event. Usually he comes on and says blessings or whatever. So thank you, Wally Dixon, for all that you do for this show. If you know people that you would love to see on here, to sit down and have a conversation with, you can inbox me on Facebook. You can inbox me on IG, and you can email me. Yes, it is I. I'm the only one responding because it's just me. So again, I would love to talk to everyone because everybody has a story to tell. We find out that through conversation that we are more alike than we are different, and you'll never know that until we have a conversation. So again, I am grateful. Again, I was a part of Crystal P's celebration last Saturday, and when I tell you, I had the best time of my life. My friend Shamanda Dutton recently launched her Laugh Often Shopify. You can order personalized t-shirts and her book, Nesting for One. It's about her and her husband conquering the battle of infertility. This is one of those other conversations that in our community we don't talk about. And so this is definitely a faith walk. I deal with infertility as well. And so I couldn't even get past the first introduction part of the book because it connects with me. So again, it's just a battle of dealing with our faith. Whatever that battle is, we have people that are and will conquer and will get what they need based off of their faith. So again, I need you to go to that website and purchase that book, Nesting for One. Also, Nesting LLC is a collaboration with Married to Film on their YouTube channel. They do live reviews of your movies and your TV series and things of that nature. So again, as the village, we will support all people, all guests that come through here. We can't do this by ourselves. I know you're wondering what's next for Sunshine. Well, here it is. When He Speaks stage play, which will be Saturday, April 20th, dinner and a play. Tickets are $25. The play tickets by itself is $10, and tickets are already on sale. You can go to Eventbrite, put in When He Speaks, and it will come up. The venue is at the Church God's Oasis, where Pastor Mike Vaughn and Lady Vaughn, location 17350 Wellington Avenue in Roseville. You don't want to miss it. You already know what we're capable of doing. Again, this is for God. This is not for me. I am actually narrating, I'm actually singing, and I'm acting in it. So again, we need your support. Again, we cannot do this by ourselves. Again, we do need vendors, and we'll get more information for that. Again, tickets are already on sale. Let's see. Saturday, May 4th. I want you guys to buy this ticket to an intimate evening with Mr. Demetrius Neighbors. Oh my God. You don't want to, when I say this, I mean, you don't want to miss me either, but you definitely don't want to miss the Demetrius Neighbors, okay? It is on Eventbrite. Please go support Dazzy 3. Doors open at 6, showtime at 7, tickets are $40. At the door be $45. Again, please support Demetrius Neighbors. It don't make no sense to be that talented. Just don't. I think that is all for my church announcement. Again, I had a wonderful conversation with this wonderful man, Rodney Page. Again, you have last words for us tonight. What do you gotta say?
No, just thank you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me on your platform to kind of give my story in music and my story in Christ. And I just say, just keep praying for me as I move forward, that I can uplift and empower and be a blessing to all those around me.
And that you will. God, we just thank you. We praise you for just who you are in our lives. God, we thank you for this evening to be able to have a conversation about this wonderful man that we still ain't seen the best yet. God, we just thank you that next thing we know, he's in the news. He's international. He's doing everything that his heart desired, even in the moments of in his family. God, we just thank you that unexpected checks, unexpected miracles, signs, and wonders follow him, even in every endeavor that he does, that somebody will be blessed. Somebody will be delivered by what he plays, because he does give his gift back to you, God. And we know for a fact that you are the one that perfect the gifts. You are the one that actually makes room for the gift. And so we just thank you and we praise you for all that you're doing and continue to do in his life. God, we dispatch angels in his home, in every place that he goes. And God, that we just give you the glory and we give you the praise. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
So again, you guys, I will be back this Thursday at 8 o'clock with Sean Matthews. Normally it's 7, but something happened, so we're gonna move the show to 8 o'clock. I just might come on by myself at 7, and then do a show with him at 8 o'clock on Thursday. So we shall see you then. Again, next Tuesday we will have the let's see, Scott, hold that thought. And he plays the saxophone.
Randy Scott
will be here next Tuesday.
Woo.
And then on the 28th, we have the author Booker Snow. So again, you already know, as I state all the time, we have some of the dopest guests that come on this show every time we have a show. Again, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You are literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny, proven over and over again since we started this show in 2020. Again, I will see you back here on Thursday at 7 p.m. with myself, then 8 o'clock with Sean Matthews. See you soon. Peace.